idea that we started and we still carry on, right? Today, we're going to talk about a very important one, which is capital costs. Why are we talking about that? You know that renewable energy projects such as solar, wind, they're becoming increasingly popular as a way for us to reduce dependence on fossil fuel, right? To combat climate change. But to build those projects, we need one thing, we need funding. Yeah? And that's where the concept of capital costs is coming forward. So do you know what costs mean? So capital costs are the costs associated with the design, the construction, and installation of a renewable energy project. So these costs actually will include things like cost of equipment, the material, the labor, and many other expenses that you will incur during the initial development of the project. For example, the cost of purchasing or installing a wind turbine, or the cost of purchasing, installing solar panel would be considered capital costs, right? And those costs can vary greatly depending on the size and complexity of the project, as well as the location. I give you an example. So if you have to develop a small-scale solar project in a rural area, this may have a lower capital cost than a large-scale wind farm in an urban area, because the considerations are not the same. This is what I wanted to say. And it's very important to keep in mind that the capital costs are only one part of the equation when it comes to renewable energy project. You have costs like operating costs, of life cycle costs. They also need to be taken into consideration for you to properly assess the financial viability of your project. So it's very much an important concept for you to understand when it comes to renewable energy project. And by understanding the costs associated with the design, the construction, the installations of the project, so you get to have a much better idea about the financial viability of your project. So having a proper understanding of those different costs, as I say, it's something that is very important for you. So you probably want to be asking me, okay, Tony, now that you say that, how much does it cost on average to build, let's say, for example, a 1 megawatt solar plant? Yeah, that's typically the kind of question that some of you will have in mind. So I would say that the cost of a 1 megawatt solar plant, it would depend on a number of factors. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised me saying that, right? So things like, for example, the location, whether you build it in Europe, you build it in America, Middle South America, or in Asia, it's not exactly the same. Also, what is the type of technology that you want to use? Yeah, I mentioned solar, right? It could be solar PV, or it could be solar CSP. Which type of solar, or even solar thermal? Which type of solar are you really talking about here? Because depending on that, the response will change effectively. So having said that, if you're talking about solar PV plants, right? So the International Renewable Energy Agency, which is ARENA, they say that the cost of a typical 1 megawatt solar PV plant, it can range between 1.3 to 2 million, right? Those are just estimates. It could be obviously some of them more expensive or cheaper, and those are actually figure as of, I say, 2019, 2020, right, roughly. So 3 years down the line, I would argue it's about the same, if not a little bit lower, right? So that's important for you to know. Now, if you want to build utility scales where you have, a big project, 30 megawatt, 20 megawatt, and maybe starting in tranches, what you find out, if you look at the cost, then when it comes down to, when you compare that per 1 megawatt for utility scale, it can range between, I would say 1 million to about 2.5 million. Again, it depends very much where you are, because some countries will be cheaper, other will be more expensive. And the cost of 1 megawatt solar thermal plant, so this is more expensive. You're talking about between 2.5 and 4.5 million. Yeah. So that is what I can say regarding capital costs. So it's important for you to understand what we're talking about here, and hopefully it gives you a much better understanding. Is that correct? Excellent. As usual, if you like this video, 3 things. I want you to like it, to comment it, and to share. Yeah. And I'll see you tomorrow, where we're going to be talking about operating costs. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.